The trap is that you think sadhana is going to change those mental structures. The sadhana can actually, in some ways, intensify things because it makes you become aware of it. You know, it's like if you have a thorn stuck in your arm and it's deep in there, it'll fester and you have to cut it open and like get it out and do a slight surgery. And so the sadhana is gonna like cut it open and expose it. But a lot of the times you don't want to be exposed.
I never said this before. I never told this to anybody. It was like a phase in my time where I thought, oh, I'm spiritual, oh, I'm the perfect. Yeah. But actually, I was not dealing with that wound, with that pain that I had.
So I absolutely think you're correct in that people who start meditation find their anxiety gets worse. And I would actually challenge that, and I would say that I would postulate that those percentages actually are becoming aware of the anxiety that they were internally managing and avoiding before. But stepping into that and saying, you know what, I'm just going to be here as an anxious person and pay attention to it, and having that trust that there is something else. There's something beyond that. There's something that, like, once you work through all of that, there's this kind of ease that can happen in that. This was something Sadhguru said to us during the Anadi program, and I wrote it down. They posted it as one of the quotes. It is through the unconscious usage of thought that one has moved away from the reality. It is through the unconscious usage of thought that one has moved away from the womb of the divine. This is the time to use the same thought to turn you backwards. If a vehicle can take you away, it is best to use the same vehicle to travel back, because it has already traveled the path once. Tracing the path back to the same thought that led you away can also be one which delivers you back to where you need to be. It is not the thought or the mechanics of the mind which is the problem. It is the unconscious ways of dealing with it which is the problem. There's been enough sadhana to become very easily conscious of the thought process. There are enough tools in your hands to very easily maintain that awareness if you drop the foolishness of trying to control them. Just learning to make it a conscious process, then being an unconscious process. If you just make it conscious, you will naturally drive it in the direction you want. If your direction and intention are set, thought is the least of your problems.
Wow, I love it.
And that's something that I've come back to over the years, and realizing that to kind of summarize or change a little bit, like go along with what you said, is you're not saying, oh, well, I'm this person, because that's just creating more thought, but you're also not trying to all of a sudden not be this person, right? Like, I'm having these, if I see Sonam and, you know, she's talking when we're supposed to be doing sadhana, and I'm like, you know, get irritated, I can just allow myself to consciously be irritated and pay attention to the irritation and kind of allow that to go, rather than being like, oh no, she's an idiot, go down that line, or say, man, I'm an idiot because I got irritated.
So again on that, you know, again we have a trail of thought. So again we are creating this space, you know. For example, you're supposed to be one with your sadhana. Good thought, bad thought. That's what Sadhguru said. No, thought is just simply a waste, generally. So again, you know, all these mental dialogues, again, creating a friction or a mismatch in the brain, right? Like Josh said, what if I just simply observe? Anger is not bad. Feeling all your emotions are not bad. Just because we put all these frames now and want to fight with this thing. No, I'm not supposed to be feeling like that. No, I'm not supposed to be saying like that. Again, it's a thought. So, you know, you're back on the thought loop again and again. No matter how much we try to escape, but we're again back on the thought loop. Oh, she should not be doing this. Oh, again, it's a thought. End of the day, it is a thought, right? So that's what he says, you know, that's what I think everybody is pretty much trying to tell us the same thing, isn't it? And, you know,
what is it? Chitta Vritta. Oh, I can't remember how it says. But like, yoga is the cessation of. Yeah, like yoga is the cessation of the movement of the mind.
And you know, movement of mind.
What's the actual phrase?
Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And that's what, you know, so, you know, this whole thing, I remember, I hope none of my patients are gonna watch this. So some of my patients, they say, you know, I do this positive affirmation. And I was like, why don't you face it, what you're dealing with, isn't it? Why don't you face it that, you know, you have this kind of mind pattern? So why are you band-aiding it with, you know, why are you putting a bandage of a positive thought process? You just say, you know, your mind is just thinking all the time. That's your problem. It's not positivity or negativity. We're just not facing it. That's the problem, right? So another thing, I remember other day I put a reel and then somebody was commenting, oh, that's so negative. And I was, as per me, it's just a blood marker. What's the negative and positive thing about it? So we have this thing, you know, we have this habit of putting things in this category, negative, positive. If there is negative, they're bound to be positive. Or if there's positive, there's bound to be negative.
I really like where this conversation is going so far, and I got a lot of value from what Sonam was sharing, and what Joshua also mentioned. And I kind of just wanted to make it more, just give an example in my own life where I saw myself, put myself into the role of a victim instead of role of the creator. I blamed people around me for the way that I felt, instead of looking at why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling, and then realizing that actually those people were not causing me to feel that way, but I was the one who was causing it. And so I think what I learned is that negative is not against positive. So only when we embrace both the negative and the positive, then we have that breakthrough where we appreciate both as a complement to each other, not as working against each other, but we are learning that it's all energy, and we are learning to use that energy, to circulate that energy, and not to block that energy.
And you know, we have this weird thing that I want to live the positive emotion fully, but I want to run away from the negative emotion. Like we have another trap, right? So whatever you're feeling, you feel it fully. Be it negative, be it positive. So when you feel something really fully, the whole of the situation goes away from you.
I think that you have the stuff that sadhana does for you, and it helps you be aware of it. But I think the trap is that you think sadhana is going to change those mental structures. But especially if you have, I'll use the word negative loosely, but if you have damaging mental structures, if you have these underlying, you have to bring the awareness to it, because so much of, say, what we learn by the time we're 5 or 6, so much of that is just our unconscious patterning. So you have to bring that unconscious or that conscious awareness and just deepen it. But especially if you've had certain tumultuous stuff happen when you're a child, the tendency is to avoid it. You know, the tendency is to say, well, this is painful, so I'm going to go, and that's where I think a lot of these addictive behaviors come from. I'm going to avoid my pain, so I'd rather drink and be numb. I'd rather do this. I'd rather do that. And so the sadhana can actually, in some ways, intensify things because it makes you become aware of it. You know, it's like if you have a thorn stuck in your arm and it's deep in there, it'll fester, and you have to cut it open and get it out and do a slight surgery. And so the sadhana is going to cut it open and expose it. But a lot of the times you don't want to be exposed. Yes. So I absolutely think you're correct in that, especially for people who have had a difficult childhood, especially for anxiety. And I read something that said, something like 20% or 15%, I can't remember the exact percentage, of people who start meditation find their anxiety gets worse. And I would actually challenge that, and I would say that I would postulate that those percentages actually are becoming aware of the anxiety that they were internally managing and avoiding before. But stepping into that and saying, you know what? I'm just going to be here as an anxious person and pay attention to it. And having that trust that there is something else, there's something beyond that. There's something that, like, once you work through all of that, there's this kind of ease that can happen in that. I think that's where the hard thing is, because if you're somebody who is, say, let's say it's 50% of the time joyful and happy and 50% of the time is unhappy, you know that joy exists. You know that happiness exists. But if you're somebody who's basically the entire experience has been this stressful, anxious, unhappy life, you don't have any sense of or experience of joy or happiness. So then you start doing, say, meditation, and you're always on edge, and you sit and suddenly you relax a little bit, but then you're really tuned into your anxiety. You're really tuned into those things. And you don't have any sense that, okay, well, the anxiety itself will pass over time if I'm just patient, if I'm conscious, if I like pay attention to it. And, you know, one of my favorite Rumi quotes is, out beyond the ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. And that's one of my favorite ones, because it's saying, like, even this anxiety, if I can come to a point where, okay, the anxiety is not good or bad. It's something that served me, like you talked about, in my childhood. Maybe I was in danger. Maybe I had a parent who, if I acted wrong, there would be physical consequences. Maybe these things are true. And so it kept me safe. Like, it kept me from, you know, a beating, or it kept me from these things, or it kept me from, you know, even worse. Like, there's horrible things people do. Understanding you're out of that situation, but you still have these unconscious things that are playing that you don't have to. If you want to be free of them, the only way is through becoming conscious of them. It's not just going to be that you sit and it's taken from you. It's not that I can book a session with Sonam and all of a sudden it's going to be gone. No, but like, you have to do the work.
You have to do the work. Yes, that's like, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And, you know, we haven't learned to sit with our emotions, isn't it? Like, I do have so many patients, they don't close their eyes for meditation at all, because, forget about meditation. Even if you sit quietly, it doesn't have to be a meditative environment. It just have to be a quiet environment. All the tasks that we have not completed, emotional, work, whatever it is, everything that you have put under the rug, it will come into your face, right? So what if somebody is dealing with all this stressful situation, people, what if somebody is avoiding everything whole life? The moment there is silence, everything will come on the face. So that person will not want to be alone at all. That person don't want to deal with all of these things. So unless and until I become aware, okay, these are the things which are pending, or these are the things I was always avoiding, let me face it one by one, okay? Let me not judge myself on that. Let me accept the full part of who I am. Maybe, you know, there's another thing. Let's say Josh, or let's say Stevan, you have some plus point, or you might have some down points, or like a negative points. Let's use this word. But that makes you who you are. You are who you are because of all your strength and your flaws, right? If somebody is, let's say somebody is so career driven, or let's say somebody is so sadhana driven, okay? People will love that aspect. People are just looking at only one side or one spectrum of that person, right? But if I have to accept this person fully, I need to understand the whole spectrum, where it is coming from. Maybe somebody is who too intense in sadhana, or let's say business, for that, let's say very focused person. That person might not be very social. That person might love to live alone, you know. But if I see one person, I see a spectrum of it, I envy that part, but I forget everything else. But when I start to get to know this person more, I will discover, oh, that person has so many dark sides. It's not about dark, it's not about light side. You know, it's like the totality. That's what makes who you are. Some people who are so driven, they're so focused. For them, other things are not important in their life, right? Because it takes a priority. But maybe for a family member, that's a main person. You know, that's a very isolated person. That's a very self-centered person. So I would say, you know, whatever we are because of everything what we are. It's not just one trait, you know, that works. But the problem is that people don't want to accept everything, you know. We are very selective in accepting. I like her this part, but I don't want to accept that part. It doesn't work like that. Everybody is a collection of a lot of things. So I say it's like an ecosystem, right? Why I need to pretend to be somebody else which I'm not? I'm just peace with myself. I'm okay with myself. I think a lot of anxiety, depression, and so many things will automatically go off. Maybe we're trying to live something else which we are not.
Paying attention to the mind, paying attention to where you are and realizing that this is where I'm at. And it's such a profound thing, but it seems like a trick that won't work. Because our mind's like, no, I've got to work hard. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And the truth is like you were talking about that cloud. You know, if I label this as a good cloud and that as a bad cloud, well, I'm going to be trying to hold on to this cloud, and that creates conflict. If I get in a car, like if I go get in my car right now and I look at it and I'm like, man, why am I in Atlanta? I need to be in New York City. And I am supposed to drive to New York City. I'm like, man, why? And I sit there and I'm like, God, why am I not in New York City? I should be in New York City. Well, I'll never start driving.
Exactly. And that's the Sadhguru says, no, this moment is inevitable. Mm-hmm. It couldn't be any other way. So this, he says things in such a simplistic way. Like, if I hear this and go beyond your likes and dislikes, I think most of my mental conflict is gone if I just pay attention to these two statements, isn't it? And then maybe we had this mindset, whatever I can't understand, it has to be intelligent. Why do I discard simple things? There has to be some mindset behind it, right? If it is simple, it's just too easy for me. I think it doesn't work. So maybe we have this mindset, something which is complicated equals to intelligent. So why am I, there's a question I used to think, why people discard simple things? Like, if I will tell them, do this, simple lifestyle changes. Oh yeah, but tell me more. It works, just do that. It's just too simple for people, they want to discard it. Tell them something very complicated, they love it.
It's the same with spirituality, isn't it? Like, you have the basics, you know what you have to do, but the next program, the next darshan, the next, and you don't actually realize that it's about the simple things. And I think simple doesn't mean there's no variety also. Simplicity doesn't mean that there is no variety. You can have variety, but you can still keep it simple. So I think that's to encourage those who are thinking in engineering is not enough variety. I think that in terms of variety, it's not about this specific thing. It's more about, how do you make your food? How do you approach your food? How do you approach sitting down with the food? How do you approach sitting down with the practice? How do you, I used to actually do 6 to 8 hours of yoga every day, and it was for me at that point in time more of an escape than a deep dive into my emotion. And especially these practices which have exact breathe this many times, do this, hold this, just exactly what I need to do. This really helped my intellect to focus on something and not have to deal with what I was feeling in my heart. So in some way I can agree to what you said, that it intensified my emotions, and it only, after a certain energy that I created through the practices, it manifested itself into an eating disorder. And I couldn't control it. I couldn't control myself. And it was like, there were days when I was doing 6 to 8 hours sadhana, and then I would, in the evening, again do sadhana. And then after like a week, I would suddenly go to the supermarket, and I could just not stop myself from buying like 3-4 packets of chocolates and just eat them in one sitting. And after that I would feel like vomiting. I feel like I just want to vomit. So I wanted to get out my emotions. I never said this before. My wife knows about it, but I never told this to anybody. It was like a phase in my time where I thought, oh, I'm spiritual, oh, I'm the perfect meditator, I'm everything. But actually I was not dealing with that, or with that wound, with that pain that I had. And it took me, what didn't happen in 3 years of intense sadhana happened in one month of not doing any sadhana and just sitting with my emotions and with my wives who support me in this. And I was crying and bobbing and, you know, feeling so many emotions. And through that journey, I realized that I was doing sadhana just as a, you know, tick, done,
Yeah,
and not at all. So I can agree with everything that you said.
You evolve, right? You figure out, okay, what works. I mean, like I said, you know, with Samyama, like people were transformed. I was hearing so many stories and I was thinking, maybe I've done something wrong or maybe I need second Samyama. Because, you know, same thing. I was doing so many programs, one after another. I have this sense of urgency that I need to finish these programs. I don't know what will fall apart. I was trying to fix things in a... See, I would say, you know, it's not in a... we have the best of intention for ourselves, you know, maybe we don't know how to figure it out. You know, we're just trying to figure out. So in a way, maybe for somebody sadhana, maybe if you understand early, you will just observe yourself. Somehow we are trying to make ourselves like a better person or a evolved version of ourselves. Of course, right now we can look back and laugh at it. At that time, it was quite real, you know. Like right now, it feels lighter, but yeah, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing, Stefan, that you were talking about, and it makes me realize, is that how you approach it is a huge part of what the results are, in terms of if you're forcing yourself through 8 hours of sadhana to reach a finish line, what you're doing mentally can just throw your whole system off, right? If you're constantly grinding, you'll kind of crash from it.
I felt at that time also that I had that, but now where I'm more at ease with exactly what you were saying, like intuitively approaching the practice and really spending time with it, not rushing through it, not trying certain numbers. I also feel that it's much more than just a physical, you know. It's like something is really being touched, and after the practice is done, there's a certain time to just be with that, to just sit with it, you know. But before it was like, okay, next practice, okay, next practice, next.
Next.